Welcome sports fans. This is the instructional video for the Scumbag Special Mark IV and Mark V Deluxe Disc Detainer picks. I wanted to come up with a design that anybody can make with easily available parts and tools. And this is what I came up with. But before I get into it, I just want to give a couple shout outs. First to Andrew Law, because he's been so supportive on so many fronts. He's a good friend, and he's a really valuable member of the lockpicking community. He deserves support, and he makes some of the best tools around. So, shout outs to Andrew. Shout out to Tiffany, also super supportive, generous with the knowledge, amazing pick designs. Dude, you're a god among men. Shout out to Huxley Pig for his support and advice as well. I couldn't have done this without him because he gave me the measurements that I needed. So, and this is not a substitute for Silver Bullet, okay? This is just to get you by. It's a good pick. It's a lot better than that Chinese garbage. I mean, I rebuilt this one and it's okay. This feels a lot nicer. You can't apply as much torque, but you really shouldn't be applying that much torque anyway. And if you build this right, it'll work well. It's not for sale. I do not want other people taking this design and making it and selling it and profiting. That's not what this is about. This is about sharing knowledge. Build your own, give them away, trade them, teach others. That's what this is about. So please do not steal my design or most of it and then decide you're going to make a bunch of money with it. That would be really lame. Only use this on locks that either you own or you have permission and have been invited to pick. Otherwise, leave them alone. That's just part of the rules. So first, the tools you'll need. This is Nicholson mill bastard file. You can pick one up for about $6 over at Home Depot. Nice brand new sharp. They do a great job. Mine's not as sharp, and I'll show you why in a little bit. Next, this is a millimeter thick. I just call it a slotting file. It doesn't have any cutting surface on here. It's just the edges. If you have a flat that has the cutting edges, that's fine too, but you want it to be a millimeter thick. This is a 2mm needle file. You will need this. This is for removing burrs inside the capillary tube, which will become your tensioning sleeve, as well as your retention sleeve for holding the pick tip. Vice grips, any old vice grips, This is a pin vise. Now, if you've got a bench vise, you don't really need these, and you don't really need this, but this helps. This is optional. This is a Starrett 240C pin vise, and it's useful for holding the ejector pin while you shape it. It's also good if you turn this into, cut out a flag, and you want to do some dimple picking. This makes a good handle. It'll also hold wiper blade inserts while you're shaping them if you like to work with stuff in your hands. So this is optional. Next, Sharpie. Pretty self-explanatory. This is a 3/32 Allen key. This is a 3mm. Also, you'll see why with the standard and the metric momentarily. And here's a 25 thousandths pick, Nessie by Andrew Law. We just need it for a thickness measurement. Now this is a little tougher. This is a diamond hone. You can get them at most any, they might have them at hardware stores. They'll have them at hunting goods stores for sharpening knives. And you do want the diamond because you'll see in a minute that without it, you'll mess your file up like I did. So, how do we build this thing? The materials you'll need. What you'll need is capillary tube, stainless steel capillary tube. This is 6mm outer diameter, 2mm interior diameter, and you have to get this stuff because this is going to be your tensioner. If you're going to build the Mark V Deluxe, then you'll also need this. This is 8mm exterior diameter, 6mm interior diameter, and this will be a stabilizer. Then you need, a 2mm shaft, steel ejector pin with a 6mm tip. It's kind of standard. I got these on AliExpress, like $3 for 20 of them or something. Just, it's not expensive. Same thing with these. It was I think it was 2 for these long pieces. Might even have been 4 for like, I don't know, $3. Took a little while to get here, but that's pretty much it. These are shaft collars. This is a 14mm shaft collar. This is a 1/4 inch, and the reason why I went standard instead of metric for these is because if you try to get the 6mm interior diameter, it won't fit through. So you actually need to get, so I just got the standard, which was a little bit bigger and gave me a little bit of wiggle room, and then you just tighten it down and it's okay. It's a little wonky, but it's fine, it works. And the same thing with this. I tried to get the 1/2 inch because that's a 1/2 inch exterior diameter, but the 1/2 inch collar, if you try to get the 1 piece, it's too small. If you want to get the 2 piece, this is a 1/2 inch, and it does fine. The thing is, this is $250, that's $750. So I just went with the $250. These are about, I don't know, $1.50 a piece as well. So not real expensive for parts, and easy enough. Now, the process. You're going to get your nice long piece here, cut off at least 1, maybe 2 2.5 inch sections, and then just, oh yeah, that's the other thing you'll need, hacksaw, no big deal. Just cut it, put it in the vise or in the vice grips, cut it down, file it off, get nice clean ends, put a chamfer on there so you're not cutting anything, and then take your needle file and clean that up. You gotta get all the burrs out of there. So this needs to be able to go all the way through, like so. Get the burrs out from inside. Make sure that it can kind of move pretty well freely. Once you get that going, and inside is clean, you're good. Now, the first part you're going to make is you're going to make what's called the retention sleeve, and the reason why I call it retention is because it retains the pig tip. This holds it in place because this grub screw isn't long enough, and anyway, you'll see. So what you want to do is either put it in your vise or put it in your vice grips, get your slotting file, and you're going to cut a slot right down the middle, right here, dead center, so that it bisects that hole. And you're going to go about 6mm deep. You can use the tip for a measurement, and you end up, about 6mm deep. Blam. Ta-da! See? This is probably the biggest pain in the ass, because it takes a while to get 6mm of that slotting down. But just do it, you need to. For the Mark IV, I just ended up cutting off, like, I don't know, it's a little over about a 1/2 inch of the 2-inch piece. And I was left with another piece, This one's a little shorter. I would use about 1.5 inches. And once you got that slotted down, just cut it off, file it off, clean it up, and that's good to go. Next, this is going to be your tensioning tip, your tensioning sleeve. Again, clamp it up in the vise or the vice grips, take your file, and file this down nice and flat. Make sure these are parallel, and you want to bring this down to 2mm thick. And you can check that basically when you start just wearing through to the gap. That's about 2mm, and you can also just test there. Yeah, basically you want to get down to that 2mm mark so that the pin is pretty well sitting flush. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to get this thing into kryptonites with any sort of warding on the end there, because that's actually tough to get into. So you gotta get that down. You want to cut this again about 6 millimeters deep. This is a little less, it'll work, but 6 millimeters is really better. So this is about 6 millimeters right there. Bam, see? And that's your measurement. So you cut them down, get them nice and flat. You want to make sure that the edges here are square, clean, but you want to take the burrs off. And I went and put another flat surface here so that when I put a shaft collar on there and tighten that grub screw down, I can sit there and torque on this, and this isn't going to loosen up. I got plenty of resistance. I can apply plenty of torque. So that's your shaft, or pardon me, this is your tensioner. Here's retention. Next, we do the pick tip itself, and that one's been cut down. I usually would basically cut this to about 6 inches long, and that gives me the option of making it for either the Deluxe or the Mark IV. And I'll just put it in the vise. Now, this is where you want that diamond hone, because this stuff is really, really hard. I don't know what they did to it. It must be heat treated just so, but the surface of it, about, I don't know, 1/4 millimeter, is just so freaking hard that it will chew your files apart. This was brand new, and literally in 20 minutes of trying to just file this off, I wore this thing damn near flat. So you know, most of this blade is crap now. I gotta go get another one. But once you get rid of that top face there, this stuff, it's hardened too, but because you're coming at it at such an angle, you can take it right off. So you just clean that up, just, you know, zip, 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 zip. Take that top maybe 1/4 millimeter off, maybe not even that. And then you're going to file it down until you get to low. Eventually you're going to end up at 25 thousandths. But you don't have to do that all immediately. Just get most of the way there, maybe to, I don't know, 40 thousandths. And then start coming in on the sides. So first you end up with a disc, and then you're just going to file in until you basically keep filing. Again, nice parallel lines until you get right down to the actual shaft itself. You can see this is forged. So you want to get right down to the shaft, maybe even take a little extra off, because again, with this tight freaking warding, if you don't have that thing cut right down, you ain't going to get through there. And literally a couple thousandths of an inch, or even a thousandth of an inch, matters. This thing will not let you by. So make sure that you get that right the way down to 2 millimeters. Once you have that done, let's see, is that all of it? Oh, if you're going to make the Deluxe, you're also going to want to cut a 2-inch sleeve of this for the 8 millimeter to 6 millimeter. That's going to be for stabilizing. Let's see, what else we got here? Yes, we got that. Oh, so now that we got this cut down to the length we want it, we want to go over this with sandpaper. We want to take all the burrs off, make sure this is real clean, like, you know, sand that up real good. You want that as smooth as you can get it. And each time, whenever you do any of these filings, like for filing the blade there, you want to get in there, clean that up. Now when you cut this out, again, get in here, clean this up real good. Because this, if you have any burrs in there, that's going to give you, you'll feel it. If you make this nice and clean, and you sand the pick tip up, this is going to go in there real smooth, just smooth as silk, no friction. And that's what you want, because you want to be able to feel those discs turning. And when you got, you know, your gate or your false gate, you want to be able to feel that. So let's see, is that it? Pretty much. The difference, one difference for the Deluxe Mark V, instead of cutting that off Instead, what you'll do is you'll leave this being 2.5 inches long, and you'll just cut that slot at the end, because this whole thing is going to be retention for that pick tip. You know, it will, you know, just slide right up in there, and it's going to tighten down, and you're going to have a good shoot, at least an inch and a half of pick depth, and then you'll use this as your guide for depth. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. Oh wait, that wasn't part of the script. I lied. Fry toy, see? So, now we're going to stick this thing together. So we got a pick tip, and we got a tensioner. Slide it on through there like that. Now, this is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but here's our retention, retention sleeve, and we just get that right up on the end there, and we get one of our shaft collars, and you have to make sure that the grub screw is pushing one side of the retention collar into the other, and you want to get this screw like as close to the top of that cut as you can, so that it can exert good force on the pick tip. So we just get it most of the way there, get it right around, and while I'm tightening this, I'm making sure that I push as much of the force as I can exert here. I'll slide this up, so if I have to push a little extra, I can, and this will sort of disperse some of the stress that some of the tension that I'm putting here. Because if I just push against the pick tip like that, I'll bend the hell out of this thing, and that's no good. We don't want that. We want this thing moving nice and smooth, the full length of it. Even though you probably will not pick that deep. You're just not going to pick that deep. Still, you want this to move smooth the whole way around. That's just what, you know, do it right. Don't skip. So yeah, grip and put that tension right there. If you're doing the deluxe, it's a lot easier because you got all that to lever against. So you got to make sure that this is real tight. As long as you do that, then this thing should, in theory, now sometimes it'll be a little wonky, kind of move a little bit. It doesn't sit on straight, so it'll shift a little. So you want to tighten it down again a little bit. All right. Now we are on our way. Next shaft collar. We're going to go here, and we're going to tighten that grub screw on that flat spot, just like so. You're going to want to leave a little bit of the tensioning sleeve here sticking up over the collar. And if you are making the deluxe, then before you put this on, you would slide the sleeve on there so it would sit with the end right on here, because that will center the stabilizer. And again, then you just tighten the collar down, then you get the stabilizer shoved all the way down this end like so. As you can see, it's all the way down the end there, and then you just put a little super glue right around here. Make sure this is up out of the way, and you don't want the super glue to come up over the edge of this, but you basically just want it to, or you can even slide this a little bit up and put the super glue on this surface right here, you know, just with like a Q-tip or whatever. Then bring the sleeve down, and it will just adhere in place. I mean, I'm not going to yank on this because it'll break the glue, but this is fine right now. And once that's done, now we just take our large collar, and I like to rotate it 90 degrees so that the grub screw is not pushing down on the other one. And I'll just tighten that. I also like to try and get this bottom edge pretty well flush. So that grub screw sits kind of at the top of this collar, but that's fine. It's just fine. Just tighten that down. Again, I'm pressing against the sleeve and not the pick shaft. It's not the shaft of the pick tip. I want this to be nice and straight, not wobbling around. I want that thing to be straight. If I bend it and warp it, well, you can kind of bend it back a little bit, but you really don't want to do that. You want to kind of just do it right the first time. Get that on there fairly straight so that it can be the tightest it can. And I might have gone up a little too high. I think it's good enough. So this pretty much is the Scumbag Special Mark IV. Now, there's a third collar here. This is for making a standoff, and in the shallower locks, you know, like a lot of the kryptonites, what you're going to want to do is basically use this to set the depth of your pick tip so that you're only grabbing disc 1. You don't want to be going down into like disc 2 or 3. Let's see, two, yeah, we're still a little shallow there. So take this, loosen it up, stay, and slide it up a little. There we go. That should do it. I'm sure that'll be fine. And now, you just lay this bad boy right on there. Get right in. And bam. Am I in there? Now I am. Okay. And that helps stabilize so that I'm not wobbling this way a whole lot. Now you still got some of that. And this is why the Mark IV is a lot tougher to use. There's no depth markings, and you really have to kind of be real careful about how this thing aligns, because if this shaft isn't aligned correctly with the lock, you're not going to be able to get it down. So you have to kind of futz about with it until it kind of moves freely, and then keep it there. And once you do, you can feel the discs, and I can feel them moving. Getting little clicks and things. Anyway, I'm not going to pick this because that would take too long for the video. The only different now, if I have to deal with something heavy, like a deep lock, like some of the newer kryptonites, take that off, and you got plenty of depth to work with. You can get right down in there. And same thing with the Deluxe. All right, there's the standoff. I can pull that off, and I got plenty of depth. Now, the additional things I did here, okay, so this is a 2.5 inch, that's 2 inches, and I've still got that little bit sticking up, down in there. And then I just kind of, made sure that this had, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch sticking in to the retainer or the stabilizer. And then I just grabbed another piece, and thanks to Huxley Pig, I knew, he told me that the discs are basically 2 millimeters. So I just took this, marked it, slid it down, marked it, slid it down, and then I just took my file and I etched in the lines. So because this Sharpie's gonna wear out, but I know where they are. It's etched in, so I've got a depth gauge.